of the top 10 potential free agents, CBSSports.com. Harden is number one with that player option, followed by Zach LaVine, who is unrestricted. The only other unrestricted free agent on this list is Jalen Brunson, who comes in at number 8. Many of the other guys either restricted or with player options for next season. Let's bring in a couple of our NBA experts, Bill Reiter and Colin Ward-Henninger, and let's start with Deandre Ayton. Bill, he is a restricted free agent, but things really unraveled there toward the end of this season in Phoenix. What happens with him?
Yeah, you said it, Chris. Unraveled with that organization, and really even before that, unraveled in that relationship between Deandre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns. There's certainly a scenario where the Suns do whatever they have to do to pay him and keep him, but that would take them into some dangerous, at least from their perspective, tax territory. And as I understand it, talking to sources, and this isn't a secret, everyone in the NBA knows this, Deandre Ayton does not and did not feel valued by that organization. So teams that are willing to pay him and see a lot of upside, especially offensively, include the Spurs, include the Magic, and for me, if I were betting on this, I think the Detroit Pistons make a lot of sense as an organization that is bereft of the kind of talent that they want outside of Cade Cunningham, that feels like they're building something for the long term. Ayton's still a young guy in the right situation with the right offensive talent around him. There's a sense, not universal, but from a lot of folks around the NBA, that he can be a great player consistently. He's going to get paid somewhere, and for me it's Detroit, but I certainly think it'll be somewhere most likely other than Phoenix.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think the best decision DeAndre could make from a basketball perspective is going back to Phoenix, kind of mending whatever fences need to be mended there so that that team can continue to compete for championships. But if I'm looking at DeAndre Ayton, the human being, the guy who's the number one pick, a guy who reportedly feels undervalued by the franchise, who doesn't just want to be a guy who sets screens and rolls and does the little things and plays defense. A team like, all the teams that Bill mentioned are certainly in play. Another team that's reportedly got interest is the Portland Trailblazers. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. That would give Ayton the opportunity to go there and be the number 2 next to Damian Lillard, get to showcase his skills. And for Portland, they're looking for a guy who they can bring in and give Damian Lillard some hope. Say, hey, look, our franchise is headed in the right direction. We're headed back to the postseason, back to contention. And Ayton, I think, is a guy that can do that. So for me, basketball-wise, it might make most sense for DeAndre Ayton to go back to Phoenix. But as a human being, as a basketball player, as a guy who wants to show everyone what he's capable of on a big stage, I think that Portland is actually a team that makes a lot of sense for DeAndre Ayton.
Colin says the Blazers are the best landing spot. Bill says the Pistons are the best landing spot. Bill, what would the Suns do? Where would they go from here with an aging Chris Paul, a season in which they had the best record in the NBA and then flamed out in the postseason? If it's not DeAndre Ayton, where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, talking to the folks in that organization, I think there's a disconnect between how they value DeAndre Ayton, how they think DeAndre Ayton should value the Phoenix Suns, and how he'll be valued by the rest of the league. And Colin hit on that. There is still, as I understand it, a hope within that Suns organization that Ayton will see the progress he has made. And let's give Chris Paul credit, certainly the people within the Suns hierarchy do, for helping Ayton become the guy that's lived up somewhat to that number 1 overall draft pick billing. So their plan is DeAndre Ayton, and there's a sense that they think they can convince him to remain and to be there. If he's not there, there's not a lot of choices out there for centers you can go get. I mean, Bobby Portis Jr. is a guy that would be an option if he's not in Milwaukee. Dwight Howard's not the top of anyone's list, but that's someone whose name has been tossed around as an affordable option. But as I understand it, the Phoenix Suns really hope and think DeAndre Ayton should look at the success they've had on the court, should understand there's a window right now as a championship team that certainly lasts however long Chris Paul's window lasts, and they're hoping that he'll agree to take what he views as a discount and what they view as an investment in success and winning and continuing to grow into a very, very good player for a young guy who has the opportunity, if he's really good going forward, to get another big-time contract at some point.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. I think that the Suns certainly want to move forward with Ayton next to their other host of tremendous players, and they think they can compete for championships. But I think they proved last season when they brought in Bismack Biyombo, when they had JaVale McGee starting for certain periods when DeAndre Ayton was out. If Chris Paul is at his peak, he can take almost any center and turn them into a viable center offensively. As long as they're a lob threat, as long as they have decent enough hands to catch the ball. Chris Paul has proven that he can take a center and make them, into a starting caliber center on a team like the Phoenix Suns. So if they're not willing to pay Deandre Ayton the max, if he gets a max offer sheet, or if Ayton just says, you know what, I am done with this organization, I think, as Bill mentioned, there's some free agent center options. And I think that given the construction of that team, I don't think they necessarily need a center who's going to be offensively aggressive. I think they need someone who can play defense, protect the rim, and catch lobs from Chris Paul. So I think moving forward, that's the kind of what they're going to have to weigh if they want to pay Ayton to come back, or whether they think, hey, look, we can get by with kind of an average level NBA starter given the rest of our roster.
Free agency beginning.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.